decay. And,
Right. Okay. So is the old studio gone? Is it?
yeah, I mean, the
dismantled
studio, I mean, it was basically a converted garage at my house.
Right.
And so somebody's actually renting that space and
Right.
using it as a studio. But
Okay.
all of the gear got put into a container and sent over. And a very cold day in February, it all showed up and we unboxed it and here it is. So it's kind of an amazing opportunity because I had all of this gear, which is for recording. I mean, you can make the argument about not using gear to mix, and I think I make the argument for myself pretty well. But you absolutely need it to record. I mean, you have microphones, and you've got to get them into the computer, and the better gear you have on the front end, the better it's going to sound. And so now all of the gear that I'd amassed that I was using for mixing, but was really built for recording, is back doing that. So yeah, it's perfect. Sure. Actually, really excited about it.
Excellent. You talk about your family quite a bit.
Apparently,
do you think?
Yes.
Well, yeah, it's
Right.
good. Do you think that you know, at this stage in your career, is it easier or more difficult to have that family life, and how do you avoid doing too much work?
Well, I mean, now it's actually a piece of cake because the kids are out of the house. I mean, they're adults and off doing, adult things. So our son lives in Oakland, our daughter lives in Los Angeles. So it's just down to the two of us now, which is great. And the way I avoid doing too much work is I don't get hired a whole lot sometimes. So it's weird.
I'm sure that's not true, though.
No, it is. It is. It comes in waves. I mean, I there was a period of about 3 months last year where I basically wasn't working. But
Right.
what's good about those times is that you've got a million friends and bands who are doing music that you like, but
yeah.
they have no money, and so you make them wait. And then all of a sudden you can do all those projects very quickly, or spend time with my modular synth, or just go to the pub, or whatever it is.
That's good.
And then it'll be full on for 3 months,
Right,
where
right.
everything that's supposed to happen one right after another all happens at the same time. So it goes in waves, but the family side of it is, I've worked at home basically for the last 20 years, and I think that's the only way we really got through it.
Sure. Rather than long hours and...
Yeah, well, because, I mean, I'm sure Debbie remembers hundreds of times where I would call from the studio and say, yeah, I'm almost done. And then, sometimes I wouldn't even get home that night.
Yeah.
And I'd called it dinner time. So that's just, studio time is elastic. And when the studio's at home, you can actually just stop for a second, go eat dinner, say hi to people, whatever, and then go back to work.
Sure.
So.
Do you think a lot of people are taking that approach now? We've spoken to quite a few producers who are sort of decentralizing and having their own...
Yeah,
their own
I mean,
space.
I think probably more often than not, that comes from the just that you can, and you can save money. I mean,
Sure.
most budgets are all-in budgets now. There are very few budgets that say, yes, and we'll pay for the studio. There's this much money to make a record. How much do you want to keep? So it's why studios like Monnow Valley have to really have a special place in the record-making process. And every once in a while, there'll be a band that'll come in for 6 to 8 weeks and make the whole record. But most bands now will go to a place like this to record drums, things that they can't accommodate at home. And then they'll scurry off back to the rooms they've built to finish overdubs and mix. And I do the same thing. And it's just... the technology is enabling that. And for mixing as well. I mean, I needed a pretty big room and a lot of power and things to be able to mix on a console. Now I need a laptop and a pair of speakers, and that's kind of it. And so it's much easier to do that at home.
Sure.
Then to be able to have your family life be better because of that, well, that's a great added bonus. But I think if most of the people who do what I do were honest, they moved home for economic reasons and got the family bonus,
Yeah, sure. So have you got a space in your new house?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I've got a place I can work. It's not really built out yet. I mean, my plan is to build a room, and of course, the big part of that plan is that the room is large enough to accommodate a full-size snooker table. So that's the big plan. But at the moment, I just have it set up with my speakers that I can work in. Okay. And then if I need to work with a client, like I can come here, or there are a bunch of smaller studios right near me, or so, a place I can just bring my speakers if I need to meet with people. But I've had people come over. It depends how well I know them. Right. If they're people I've known for a while, they can just come over and all right, but it works and it's fine. but it's not Swish.
So
yet.
do these babies travel with you everywhere then?
Well,
Yeah.
no,
Or have you got
these
multiple
babies
pairs?
live here. I own 4 pairs of them
Right.
at this point because they're not that expensive. We're talking about the tannoys,
Yeah.
obviously. They're not that expensive, but they stopped making them 30 years ago or something like that. So if you blow them up, you can get them reconed, but you can't replace the drivers and you can't really do much with the crossovers. So I just buy them whenever I see them up for sale and then leave them scattered.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned that you occasionally have periods of time where nothing's going on.
Yes.
Which I'm not convinced on, but
No, it's true. It's true.
Are you still doing Tonequake then, your label?
Yeah, yeah.
Is anything interesting happening on
Well,
that?
I mean, really, at this point, Tonequake, I mean, I still am the North American label for a few bands that I've worked with and things
Right.
like that. So there's some smaller, almost more kind of distribution
Yeah.
things. But I've got one artist on the label, Low Roar, which I'm very, very involved in. I mean, I'm practically in the band on the records.
Yeah.
Producing and playing a lot of instruments and working with Ryan really closely. And then I've been his label since the beginning. I mean, I basically formed the label to put out his first record. I'd been thinking about it for years and then did it for that. So that's the focus of the label, is the one artist, and we're actually hoping he'll attract a slightly larger label just to get some more support. But I mean, we've just had a placement in a video game trailer that has gone nuts. So we almost charted, as it turns out. We just missed it. But yeah, so I still do that, but it's very much about just the one artist.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So, would you describe yourself as a mixer or mixer producer or anything? How would you?
I don't know. I mean, I used to describe myself as the audio janitor, but I think I've graduated a little bit from that. No, I mean, at the moment, 90% of my work is mixing.
Right.
And it's just, I think it's a combination of two things. One is that's just what happened, which I'm absolutely fine with. And the other thing is that I've probably steered myself towards it because it's so much more flexible. Any other part of the recording process, you have to be in a room on a given day with people. And I can mix anywhere at any time.
Sure.
And I don't have to schedule. So when all of those projects happen at the same time, now, especially now that I'm in the box, I can say yes to absolutely everything, and then I just won't sleep for a while. But
Right.
it's fine, and
Yeah.
I actually enjoy working on multiple projects at the same time because of just staying fresh and the perspective of switching back and forth. I love producing. I mean, I love being in a room with a band. That's my favorite. Probably pre-production is my favorite
I've
thing.
got a quote here
Uh-oh.
from you. But,
Uh-oh.
well,
I change my mind a lot,
I
so it might
hastily
not be
scrolled
true.
it, but it's about serving the song and the dynamic. A production is a dynamic human interaction, and engineering is secondary. Are you still of that mind?
Yes, I think that's very much pertaining to sort of the what goes on during the day while you're producing and recording a band. And if you are an engineer first and a producer second, then you're not making the record. You have to be 100% present to produce, to be listening to the song and the performance and gauging that the band needs lunch, rather than, wow, kick drum sounds great, you know. So that's definitely what that's about. I mean, that's nothing to do with any other part of the process, but yeah, when I'm producing, I'm invariably also engineering, but I will spend the first hour and a half of the first day engineering, and that's pretty much it. And then I'm relying on everyone else who's in the room to tell me, by the way, the left overhead hasn't been working for an hour and I didn't know how to tell you. Like, well, tell me immediately. And, you know, so I really stopped paying attention to it. And that's what that excellently worded quote is about.
It was. It jumped out at me.
How about that?